There was a photograph on Ruth's mantle. Her and Richard, their wedding day, 30 years ago. She looked at it sometimes. Not because she missed him. She did miss him in the way you miss a routine, the way a house feels wrong without the sound of someone else moving through it. But when Ruth looked at that photograph, she didn't recognize the woman smiling back. The woman was wearing her face, her dress, her mother's pearls. But it wasn't her. It was someone Ruth had invented for that day and kept performing for 3 decades. Richard had been a good man. Everyone said so. At the funeral, they lined up to tell her how lucky she'd been. She nodded, thanked them, made coffee, accepted casseroles. That was 2 years ago. The house sat on the edge of the coast, Maine, where the wind never stopped and the neighbors kept their distance. Richard had built this house the year they married. Every room held something of him. His chair by the window, his books on the shelf, his coat still hanging by the back door. Ruth hadn't moved it. Not because she couldn't, because she didn't know what she would put in its place.
Ruth had taught high school English for 28 years. She retired last spring. Her daughter called on Sundays, mostly out of duty. Her son lived in Seattle. She heard from him on holidays. This was her life now. Morning coffee on the porch, afternoon walks on the beach, dinner alone at the kitchen table. It wasn't unhappy, it was just quiet. Sometimes she wondered if the woman in that photograph had ever existed at all, or if she'd made her up so completely that even she believed it. The house next door had been empty for almost a year. Then, one Tuesday in September, a truck pulled into the driveway. Ruth watched from the kitchen window, coffee in hand, not because she was curious, because there was nothing else to look at. A man stepped out of the truck, alone. Younger than her, much younger, somewhere in his mid-30s, she guessed. Dark hair, a few days unshaved. He moved like someone who wasn't in a hurry but knew exactly where he was going. He saw her at the window and raised a hand. She raised hers back.
Over the next few weeks, they crossed paths in small ways. Him carrying boxes from his car, Ruth pulling weeds from the garden that had grown wild since Richard died. A wave here, a nod there. One afternoon, he walked over while she was sitting on the porch. "Ethan," he said. His name was Ethan. He was a writer, he told her. Divorced, no kids, needed somewhere quiet to finish a book. They talked for maybe 20 minutes. Nothing important. The weather, the town, where to buy groceries without driving 40 minutes. But before he left, he said something. "You have a way of looking at the ocean," he said, "like you're waiting for it to answer you." Ruth didn't know what to say. No one had ever described her before, not like that. Richard used to say she was sensible, reliable, good with money. After Ethan left, she sat on the porch until the sun went down. His words kept circling in her head, like you're waiting for it to answer you. That night, she looked at the photograph again. The woman in the white dress. The smile that never quite reached her eyes. She wondered what Ethan would see if he looked at her. It happened 3 weeks later. Ethan had come over to return a book she'd lent him. They ended up on the porch, talking. The sun was setting, turning the water gold and orange. Ruth didn't remember how they got to the subject, but at some point, she told him about Richard, how he'd been sick for 2 years before he died, how she'd taken care of him, how the house felt like a museum now, everything exactly where he'd left it. Ethan listened without interrupting. When she finished, the silence stretched out. Then he said, very quietly, "You talk about him like he was a project you completed." She should have been offended. She wasn't. He leaned closer. Not much, just enough that she could smell him. Something clean, like soap and salt air. His hand lifted. Ruth thought he was going to touch her face. Her skin already felt warm where his fingers would land. But he stopped. His hand hung in the air between them, an inch from her cheek, close enough that she could feel the heat of his palm. Then he lowered it. "I'm sorry," he said. "I shouldn't." He stood up, said goodnight, walked back to his house.
The porch was empty. Ruth sat there for a long time, not moving. Her cheek still burned where he hadn't touched her. She went inside. The photograph was there, on the mantel, same as always. But she couldn't look at it. She couldn't look at anything. That night, Ruth lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Richard had never made her feel like that, not once in 30 years. His hands on her body had always been functional. Kind, yes, gentle even, but never like a question. Ethan's hand, the hand that never landed, had asked her something she didn't know how to answer. "Are you still in there?" She closed her eyes. She didn't sleep. The next evening, Ruth took a long bath. Not because she needed one, because she didn't know what else to do with herself. The water was too hot. She stayed in anyway. When she finally got out, the mirror was fogged. She wiped it with her hand. And she looked. Not the quick glance she usually gave. Not the assessment of what needed fixing, what was sagging, what had faded. Ruth just looked. Her face, her neck, the lines she'd earned over 55 years. She didn't look away. Her hand moved before she decided to move it, fingers tracing her jaw, down to her throat. Slowly. She was holding her breath. She let it out. When had she last touched herself like this? Not to wash, not to check for lumps or rashes, just to feel. She couldn't remember. Her hand kept moving. Collarbone, shoulder, the curve of her arm. She watched in the mirror like she was watching someone else, a woman she was meeting for the first time. Then lower. She hesitated, not from shame, from surprise. Her body was responding. After years of silence, something was waking up. Ruth closed her eyes. She didn't think about Ethan. She didn't think about Richard. She didn't think about anything. She just felt. Afterward, she sat on the edge of the bed. Her breathing was slow and unsteady. She looked at her hands, the same hands that had graded papers, made dinner, held Richard's as he tied. The same hands. But she felt different. Something had shifted. A door she'd locked so long ago, she'd forgotten it existed. She said it out loud, to no one. "I'm still here." The words hung in the quiet room. She said it again, just to hear it. "I'm still here." Outside, the ocean kept moving. The house settled into its usual creaks and sighs. And Ruth sat there in the half-dark, feeling more awake than she had in years. Not because of the man, because of herself. She had been so busy being Richard's wife, then Richard's widow, that she'd forgotten there was someone underneath all that. Someone with a body that could still feel, still want, still respond. She was 55 years old, and she was just starting to meet herself. Ruth avoided Ethan for a week. When she saw his car in the driveway, she stayed inside. When he waved from his porch, she pretended not to see. It wasn't that she was afraid of him. She was afraid of what she might do. But on Sunday, he knocked. Ruth thought about not answering. She answered anyway. Ethan stood on her porch, hands in his pockets. "I need to tell you something," he said, "and then I'll go. You don't have to say anything back." The wind was cold off the water. Ruth pulled her sweater tighter. "Okay," she said. He took a breath. "I think about you," he said. "More than I should." He paused. "I know I'm too young,
And I know this town talks. And I know you're still carrying your husband with you everywhere you go. Another pause. But I see you. Not the widow. Not the teacher. You. And I don't think anyone's looked at you in a long time. Ruth didn't speak. She couldn't. Ethan waited. Then he nodded, like he'd expected this. That's all, he said. I'll leave you alone now. He turned and walked down the steps. Ruth watched him go. She didn't call after him. She didn't move. The door closed behind her. The house was quiet.
Ruth walked to the mantel. The photograph, her and Richard, their wedding day. She picked it up. The woman in the picture was smiling, but there was something behind her eyes, something Ruth hadn't noticed before, or hadn't wanted to notice. She was already gone. She'd left that day, maybe, or the day after, or slowly, year by year, until there was nothing left but the performance. Ruth looked at her for a long time. Then she said, quietly, I'm sorry. She wasn't apologizing to Richard. She was apologizing to her, to the woman she could have been if she hadn't been so afraid. Ruth set the photograph face down on the shelf. Not hidden, not thrown away, just no longer watching. 3 days passed. She saw Ethan once, getting into his car. He didn't wave. She didn't wave. The distance between their houses felt wider than it was. On Thursday morning, Ruth opened our closet to get a sweater, and she saw it.
A dress she hadn't worn in years. Deep blue, simple, but it fit in a way that made her stand differently. Richard had never liked it. Too much, he'd said. You don't need to attract attention. So she'd pushed it to the back of the closet, and then she'd forgotten it. Ruth took it out. The fabric was cool against her hands. She held it up to the light. Then she put it on. It still fit. She stood in front of the mirror, the same mirror from that night, but the woman looking back was not the woman from the photograph. This woman had lines around her eyes, her hair was streaked with gray, and this woman was not pretending. She was awake. Ruth walked out of the house, across the yard, onto his porch. She knocked. Ethan opened the door. He looked at her, at the dress, at whatever was on her face. He didn't speak. Ruth opened her mouth. I don't know what I'm doing, she said. Her voice was steadier than she expected. I don't know what this is or what it means. I don't know if this is a mistake. She took a breath. But I don't want to stop. The wind came off the water, cold and sharp and alive. Ethan stepped back, leaving the door open. An invitation. A question. Ruth stepped inside. The door closed behind her. And for the first time in 30 years, she wasn't performing. She wasn't the woman in the photograph. She was just Ruth. And that was enough.